Dolma Griffith, big up yourself. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Aisha Fletcher. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Okay, guys. So because we want to dedicate the a large chunk of the program to this discussion, we're gonna start, and we may go a little bit over the hour. All right. So I hope you guys bear with us because it's that type of day, it's that type of discussion here today. All right, guys. So recently, right, the minister the Minister of Honorable Delma Thomas, Minister of Social Development, Housing and Community Empowerment, she made a recent cabinet speech stated that the government is considering reintegrating pregnant young ladies into mainstream schooling in order to continue their education. After that statement was made, after that news broke, a lot of people um, took to social media both for and against. A lot of people are stating that nah, that is not a good decision. A lot of people wanted to understand why, for so many years, that young women who got pregnant in school, sometimes to no fault of theirs, sometimes some of them were abused, and well, at the young age, it's some might say statutory rape. In some instances, so they were not included back into the school system, but what happened to the men? So everyone have an opinion on this. I want to show you guys a clip of that statement that was made by the honorable minister on in regards to this particular incident. Take a quick look.
Social Development Minister Delma Thomas says government is considering reintegrating teenage pregnant students back into the school system. Addressing the House of Representatives on Friday, Minister Thomas said some of the pregnancies are abuse in many cases.
As a government and as a nation, we have to look whereby our children can be reintegrated into secondary school. So there should be a choice where you decide whether or not you want to go back in secondary school, where it's flawless, so there must be education of our people in accepting these young ladies, or they can decide whether or not they want to opt for PAM or some other facility that can help in providing education opportunities for our young women in abusive situations.
The issue received support from Speaker of the House of Representatives Michael Pear, who recalled his role as then Chief Education Officer in the Ministry of Education.
I think you would find support in this speaker here when you talk about getting our young ladies to continue their education. My last year as the Chief Education Officer, I got battered by the women organization, the church organization, and other organizations for having sent back some young ladies who got pregnant as teens back to school.
He said he did not regret his decisions to return pregnant students to the classrooms.
I must say, the result was wonderful in that 4 of the young ladies continued to the end of the secondary education, 4 of the 5. So you have an advocate here, because I think we must remember that they are not to be crucified for sometimes what they are not responsible for happening.
Cherian Blackman Stephen, GBN News.
So to join us to share her story here in the first part of this lengthy discussion is Abigail Barnett. Abigail Barnett was a high school student, Anglican High, back in 1997 when she became pregnant. And she's joining us right now on the live. Abigail, thank you for joining us right here on the Ride. Welcome to Ride Along. How are you doing today, Abigail? Abigail, I'm not hearing you. Oh, sorry. Hold on. I know why. All right, Abigail, go ahead.
Your
Go right
mic
ahead.
is gay.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, Abigail. Welcome
Hi,
to the
afternoon, everybody.
Yes. Abigail, share your experience with us. What happened?
Um, well, Junior, I got pregnant at the age of 13. I attended PAM at the time. I
Right.
was still pregnant, had the baby, and Franca Bernardine was the principal at the time at PAM. And she said, you know what? You are being lost because we had the school living
Right.
class and we had the CXC class. So I was too advanced for CXC. I was too advanced for school living, sorry, and I
Right.
was not ready for CXC. So she said, we're going to send you back to school. So we went to the ministry, and that clip you
Yeah.
played just now there. Mr. Pierre is speaking of me. He's talking
Oh,
about me,
okay.
right? Yes, he's speaking about me. So we went to the ministry. They did everything. They organized a letter for me to go to the school. Got everything ready. Um, it was Boca Secondary School,
Uh-huh.
and the principal there was not happy. He didn't accept the letter. So the first day of school, September, everybody, I dressed in my uniform. My mom went with me. And when we reached up there, he was like, no, we didn't get any letter from the ministry. So he was like, yes, the ministry sent up a letter. We called Mr. Michael Pierre, the Speaker of the House, was the Chief Education Officer at the time. We called
Right.
him. He said, no letter has been sent. He said, yes, I sent the letter. They had to personally send someone from the ministry to give him the letter. He accepted. That was the first instance.
Right.
Entered classroom. My desk was on the side. So the entire class was on one side, and I was by myself in a corner.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So no problem. The teachers teach. I will do what I have to do. Even my assignment, the teacher didn't even want to look at my assignments. And there were two girls that came and they said, you know what? We will sit with you. And they sit with me. Even when I go for lunch, the children will tease me. The children will put things in my hair. They will, it was a hell. It
Right.
was hell. It was hell. It was hell. But I must say, the Ministry of Education at the time was very supportive of me because they had provided me with counselors.
Mm-hmm.
They provided me with counselors, so I got counseling. But what I think is that the schools and the teachers and the students were not educated enough of what was really happening. It's
Right.
not the matter that, yes, it was I was too young. And then I was lost in PAM. Yes, everybody is saying PAM, PAM, PAM. But PAM had 2 stages at the time. I think
Mm-hmm.
now they have more classes. So, you could actually continue everything. But the age, it has a lot to do with your age. Because at the age of 13, I had a baby and there wasn't any classes that I could have taken at the time in PAM.
Right.
There were also 2 other young ladies that worked together with me, but one had a miscarriage, so she didn't have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So I had my baby physically. So I used to be on the street in my uniform with the baby. And you could imagine on the street, the words, the bickering, the laughter. It reached a point, Junior, where I even got hypertension.
Yeah. And when you refer to
Because
PAM, she's making reference to the program for adolescent mothers, which is a program. It's an NGO sort of program set up that would assist mothers that got pregnant in the process and try to integrate them back. So it's a separate type of school, and it's not the same integration. It's not the regular school that you go back into. Correct?
no, it's not the regular school. It's
Right.
not it's a separate program that they have.
Right. Right. Uh,
But at
uh,
the time then they only had two classes. There was school living class and there was CXC classes.
right. Right.
So before,
While you went back into that school, Abigail, where were did you have to carry the child with you, or someone else was taking care of the child at the time?
yeah, my mom used to take care of him so that I can go to school. So I
Okay,
used to have to take him to my mom, go to school, and then pick him up after.
right.
So I
Okay.
was actually in my uniform, and everybody seen me with the baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What happened to the father? Tell us about the father. Were he denied access to schooling as well in the process?
Well, he was not in school at the time.
Okay. Okay, so he was not in school at the time. Was any action taken against the father because he was
No,
13 years old?
no,
Okay. All right.
no.
All right. Stay with us here, Abigail, because we're now going to bring in the ladies from the top five. But before we do that, I want to play back a quick voice note because we did ask that everyone, speak out or speak up, whether you are against or for this initiative. Um, talk to us about it. So we got some information, and this is one of the voice note that we got earlier today. Take a quick listen.
Junior, how I see it, it's just wrong on every level to allow a child who got pregnant back in the same school as her mates. Don't get me wrong. Every child have the right to their education, just not in the same environment. We don't want the other kids thinking it's okay to go out and have sex and you can get pregnant and it's no big deal. You can get to come back to school and sit as nothing happened. They can either get a facility for those kids so they can continue their education, or they can allow the kids to go to night school, have teachers teaching in the night. Yes, in the night, have teachers teaching. If not, make it mandatory to have the children get checked regularly to see if they're sexually active and put them on birth control. Make it mandatory. Okay, that is my point of view. Because there is no way children who have child or being pregnant go back to school and sit in class with their mate as though nothing wrong and all is well. That's my point of view.
And the other voice note was,
Children must be children, and you cannot study maths and math at the same time. We can't have the children going out there to school and spoiling other people good kids. I'm sorry. Who vex? Vex.
right. How do you feel about that,
Oh, Junior,
Abigail?
me?
Yeah, you, Abigail. Yeah.
Listen, from my experience, I was young, I was naive, I made a mistake, right? I made it. I suffered the consequences of it. But is the individual to take your mistakes and make better of yourself. We are not perfect. I was not perfect, right? It happens. There are children out there, there are young ladies out there that are sexually active. You don't see the pregnancy, but the parents actually take them to do the abortions, right? So it's people's opinion is people's opinion. I was grateful for the opportunity. It had made me a better person 100%. 100% had made me a better person.
Mhm.
And I don't think I've ever going to school and talking to the other girls. I don't think I've ever had a sexual discussion with any one of them. We don't talk sex. We have never talked sex. So it's not like I sit with them and say, you know what, let's do this, let's do that. This is how this is done. This is how your child have to have a mind of their own. Children are sexually active all over. Yes, we can just teach them the correct thing. For me, I was stubborn. You understand? I was stubborn. I didn't used to listen.
Mhm.
But we, the parents, and I say we because I have my son is 22,
Mhm.
and we have to talk to them. We have to teach them. This is not the way to go. You want this, there are time and there are place for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
People, however people think, I mean, you can tell people how to think.
Right.
You
Let's
know?
bring in some of the ladies from the top five into the discussion, guys. Let's welcome here on the ride. We have Diane Winter Funde, who also hosts the program here with me on a Wednesday, Immigration Now. She also the host of the popular show Ride Along Live Top Five. We have Victoria. She's also on the cast of Top Five that airs on Sundays at 5 p.m. We have Colleen. She also is a host of the very popular show Top Five. And Hermelin, she's also going to be joining us as well, also host of Top Five. We're missing one person from the Top Five. Hopefully, she'll join us again a little bit later. Ladies, you heard Abigail's story. You heard the caller voice note. If you could unmute Diane, unmute your audio. What you guys think about this?
I'm livid by the by the calls. I'm reading through the comments as well, and it's very interesting how I saw one comment. It said, "Why put sex education into the schooling?" Well, the reason why you should have sex education in schooling is to prevent things like these things happening.
Teach them, yeah.
Teach them how, if they're going to go out there, at least know to do it the correct way. So you cannot be in a society where sex is a hush, 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 scared thing. Okay? Because what happens is kids would automatically try to go out there and figure it out themselves. Why would you want your child to figure it out by themselves or from a stranger? It should come from your parents, and then the school should teach you. I mean, I went to school over here in New Jersey, and we had sex education. I wasn't sexually active in school or anything like that, but it definitely taught me, what can happen. It showed pregnancy. It showed how to protect yourself. It showed outcomes and so forth. So I don't understand why anyone would be opposed to not having that. And secondly, I don't want to be too verbose with it. Secondly, I don't feel that we should chastise a female just because that may happen to them. And for her case, she was with someone who was older than her, and that was not persecuted because he was with a young lady. Now, what if it's a young man that's in school at same age and they got engaged with sex and what, he stays in school while she's persecuted? I think it's very sexist. I'm not really opposed when people are trying to make it feel like one person is much greater than the other. Everyone has their downfalls. No one is perfect at all. And that's my brief.
Right. Okay. Diane, I would love to hear your point of view on this, because
I was listening to Abigail speak, and I was over here trying not to tear up because I know all too well what Abigail went through. So I went to school in Jamaica in the Caribbean, and Victoria described it well. I engaged in sexual activity as a teenager, and I was told by my mom not to. I was told by my parents not to. And the person I got pregnant for at the age of 15, we were both in the same high school. We were attending the same high school. Nothing happened to him. He continued his life, moved on to a next girlfriend before I even gave birth to my daughter. Wow. So when Abigail is speaking, I know exactly what she's talking about. I did something which I don't know if I want to confess here, but what I did was I hid my pregnancy so I could graduate. So I never allowed my pregnancy to show. I was very close to being graduating because I was academically smart. So I had skipped a couple grades. So by age 15, Abigail nodding her head because we've been there, right, girl? At age 15, I got pregnant very close to graduation, and I was super tiny. So I had to hide my pregnancy or they would not have allowed me to graduate. I would have been expelled. I would have been dismissed. So after attending high school for 4.5 years, I got pregnant in the middle of my last year of high school. I hid that sucker and walked across the stage. And then by the time I gave birth, the high school was shocked. Everybody was shocked. but I had already graduated. I remember sitting at my graduation ceremony, could barely breathe because I'm sucking in my tummy. They had things that you could tie around your belly, so you start wearing the big clothes. So people were suspicious of me. But I hit it and I was able to graduate. I would not, if I were pregnant, I would not have wanted to continue high school. I would not have wanted to continue junior. Put me somewhere else with other women that are pregnant. The ridicule, the embarrassment. There were days when I would not leave my house because the shame, because I lived in a very small community. And that's what everybody's talking about. And first of all, they pretended like you had sold, like you're a prostitute or like you're a whore or you've slept with half the community because you got pregnant. Nobody sees it as like a Romeo and Juliet where, we had a boyfriend. We kind of fooled around, did what we weren't supposed to do. We were unprotected and I got pregnant. The shame that goes with it, let me tell you something, it's not pretty. It is not pretty. Even when Abigail was talking, I was getting like emotional, like, oh my God, because these are things that I've buried. My daughter is now 27. So it's not something I try to think about anymore. But every time I see a teenage mother, I try to offer grace. I try to offer encouragement. I try to let them know it's not the end of the world. So I hear what the callers are saying, and I agree with